What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams, and I am joined by my two wonderful co-hosts today. We've got Kyle Henning on my left. Kyle, how are we doing tonight, sir?
Well, technically it's game day, so it's a good day. Because we're recording this at the break of midnight here this evening, ladies and gentlemen, Arrowhead time.
Game day.
Now that we've got, I think, all the technical difficulties worked out, we should be able to talk about us and the Broncos, I think.
I think we will. Arrowhead Tom at the bottom of the screen is also here. Tom, how are we doing tonight?
Hey, you know what? I'm doing pretty well. I've just been honestly thinking all day about how if Brett Veach wants to make up for passing on DK Metcalf in the 2019 draft, he can make it up by drafting Xavier Leggett this year. But that's probably getting a little ahead of myself.
I'm going to pretend like I know where that guy's playing for college football.
South Carolina. What is he talking about?
South Carolina. We're working on wide receivers and tight ends for Kingdom Recon. We're a little bit behind on some things, but
we could maybe use some wide receivers, huh? No,
that's what I'm thinking.
Oh boy,
are we
doing that already?
I think that's where we'll start. All right, so listen up, everybody. This is gonna be a wild episode. It might maybe
None of us are wearing pants.
We're just sending this episode. It's going to be probably a short, little, quick one on game day here to get you ready for the game. But we've got some topics to discuss still. Okay, we still got some good things to talk about from the Vikings game, which we have not yet talked to you about. So we will, just a little bit though, just a little bit. Biggest conversation of Chiefs Twitter the past couple of days. The wide receiver room, as we alluded to. What do we think? What are we thinking, boys? How the wide receivers have been a big topic of discussion this far in the season, mostly because just of the weird expectations that were set on everybody, the overcrowdedness in the room, the lack of defined roles, really.
Mostly the weird expectations. Mostly those.
Yeah. But there's some troubling evidence, I would say. I would say there's some troubling evidence of some things that we're seeing on film, some snap counts that are very questionable. Some usages, like I said, that are pretty questionable.
That depends on who you are, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah, as some people, it makes sense. I mean, Justin wide receiver 1 Watson is what we need in our life. But
Patrick told you a while ago he's the guy he trusts in that room, and he's
the only guy. I mean,
throwing balls up, and he's getting results out of him. So
yeah, I mean, he had a crazy catch over a defender to stop an interception, basically, and end up with a big gain.
It was a beautiful catch.
That throw is more perfect than you think it is, because I think even if he doesn't go take it, it's just over the fingertips of the defender.
Yeah,
but
the defender didn't have a great grasp on it, and he
that's an insane grab
for that entire time. I mean, he had it. He was locked in for that one. And then
trust me, I thought it was a pick on release, but it was definitely not.
And then the other big catch he had, maybe the thinnest toe drag of all time, maybe. Like literally the last.
Now, Garrett, we all know that wasn't really a catch. He only had possession and 2 toes in bounds, and the refs clearly just gave it to him because they feel sorry for him.
He had Vikings fans so mad that it wasn't a catch when it was actually a catch. Yeah. This is by the way, this is what we're gonna get now. When I mentioned it last week of, hey guys, can you at least be mad at them for calls they get wrong and not the ones they actually get right? Like, Jesus Lord.
I mean, this is it definitely looked. I think it definitely was a catch. But boy, oh boy, was it close. It's a good thing it was called a catch on the field, because I don't think it would have been overruled. But
I don't disagree with you there. But he definitely
was a catch. It was a catch.
I think the concerns in the wide receiver room are mostly overblown, mostly because the expectations were way too high on this group before the year started by a large portion of the fan base, which we talked about on this show. I also don't expect them to show or do a lot of things with some of the guys that they may be keeping and things for and designed for, because Andy doesn't do that until like October, November, closer to December, end of this month, beginning of next month.
Mm-hmm.
And we've watched it on tape. We watched it on the Jets game. Went and looked at it again some in this game. They're still running very vanilla offense in a lot of these schemes, and some routes that are only designed for one real open receiver with some of the stuff they're doing. Now, was it better in the game against the Vikings? Yes, it was. They ran better routes. They got the ball more into the hands of guys quicker, and they allowed some playmaking on those guys. I'm also not surprised that they're going consistently with the guys they are on the snap counts they are, because Andy's comfortable with them doing what he wants them to do from the other things perspective. So he's going to give them the snaps. He does this all the time. Until it's time to turn the playbook loose, he goes with what he's comfortable with. So I'm not too worried about the wide receiver room. This is kind of what I expected with them having so many guys and them rotating all these guys in and out. We knew there was going to be a lot of this. I'm not too surprised, and I'm not too worried about them going to get it. You're going to see guys start to get more looks in different packages. You're going to see them start to open
Justin
up the playbook
Ross,
more.
man, get that man some more.
That's
snaps.
fine. I get it, but he's also got
he had a couple drops. He had a couple drops, but get that man some more snaps.
He's batting 50%. You know,
that's tough. Yeah. Certainly interesting. Tom, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, Tom? Chop someone down.
As always, I'm like a degree. Yes, Kyle is right. Expectations were probably most definitely too high. They were unrealistic.
1,000 yards.
Right? At the same time, I was thinking about that. Somebody said that MVS was going to have 1,000. So here's my thing. I think that we expected some inconsistencies from guys. Like I'm not upset about Kadarius Toney, because Kadarius Toney is always hurt, right? He's the definition of a glass cannon. Hyper powerful but fragile. Sky Moore, I feel like the expectations got out of hand for, and he's just been dunked on Twitter. Somebody had absolutely shredded about who's the bigger bust, and I respectfully could not disagree more between him and Clyde. One of those kids was a first-round draft pick. Two, one of them played in the SEC, and the other one played in the MAC. Yeah.
Sky was a late second-round pick. Sky was.
And
third.
The thing with Sky, and we talked about this the last episode, it's about putting him in the position to be successful, and they've asked him to do a lot of things that he's not necessarily strong at. So I think that the frustration is valid in the sense that the expectations were low, and we still are
not quite there.
Yeah, it's not quite there. Not quite there, and not quite. We're not even seeing the flashes that I think.
Yeah, I think the biggest. Yeah, that is kind of the biggest issue. You kind of almost seen a decline from the end of last season, where some of these guys were like MBS, Sky, were both kind of performing at a higher level at the end of the season.
Well, not even Sky though, because Sky didn't do his best game was literally the Super Bowl. It was his first and only touchdown catch in his career, right? Like, this is a kid who I think they still had work to do, and getting him along. But to me, it's hard to look at it and go, oh, this is I think somehow MVS has been invisible, and he's not been hurt. He's been he's been erased, and that's frustrating because there were signs that maybe he was going to be a bigger piece of the offense with the game against the Bengals, and he's just been erased. MVS has been. I can't even tell you when the last catch he had was that I went, oh yeah, good play. Maybe there was one in the Detroit game. He's literally been a ghost, and so I think that's a huge frustration. Justin Watson is Justin Watson. Obviously, Kadarius Toney being hurt isn't fun, and my biggest thing is Rashee Rice drops aside. The kid just keeps getting better every week, and I think that's what we want to look at and what we want to watch.
That should be the guy. Yeah, I think we really focus on. Respect to all the all the Justin Ross fans out there. Just being realistic. You want a guy who's going to be, the dude in this room. I'm not saying Justin Ross doesn't have a spot on the roster, although I don't think he's talented. Don't get me wrong, but he's
not the same player he was as a freshman in Clemson. And I mean that, like, I love the kid's story and I want him to be around. I'd love to see him develop. Rashee Rice is the guy that if you're gonna pin yourself to one of these guys.
If you're gonna put your eggs in the basket, let's put the Rashee Rice basket out there. Big and
then
strong.
Sky Moore, I just think you got to give him more time. It's the second year. He's not Justin Jefferson.
Kind of weird to think that you have Rashee Rice, who's actually further along almost, it seems like, than Sky Moore, who's already been a whole year in the offense.
To do nearly the same things.
They are different receivers, and I think Sky might have been a lesser prospect coming out than Rashee was.
He's also more of a project, and again, they're asking Sky because he's been in the offense the extra year, and they don't have anybody else in front of him to do the things that need to be done.
Right.
Sky knows the other things that the receivers have to do in this offense that Justin Ross and Rashee Rice don't. They're also not being asked to do that because they just got here. They don't know better. Sky knows better. So Sky's being asked to do those things, even though he may not be great at them.
And I will also say this, not to let Sky entirely off the hook. I am concerned about Sky's lack of separation. When you look at some of the advanced stats, he is not getting separation. And that's with, and he's putting him in positions to make some plays, and he just isn't making them. Now, again, young guy, there's always hope and all that stuff. I'm not throwing in the towel on him yet or anything like that. But, in terms of expectations, and I mean, just being honest, from the prospect standpoint, Rashee Rice was always going to be a better athlete, bigger. I don't know if I would say faster, but stronger. Played at what I would call a higher level of competition pretty handedly. And then just,
I'm not even sure necessarily the competition thing matters, except for his immediate transition thing to the next level, which is why you're seeing it be maybe a little bit sped up from where Sky was. That's, I think, probably the only part that factors in from that perspective, because, I mean, we've seen, there's been multiple examples, but the gap in what used to be from the North Dakotas and the North Dakota states of the world to La Tech and to LSU, even in some category cases, isn't all that gapped out like it used to be. The gap's narrowed some because the talent level's increased, but there's a speed difference and an adaptation difference once you get to that next level when everybody's that guy. So,
it's speed and strength, and I again, I'll point this out and I'll stand on this. I don't the problem is going to be, is Sky Moore able to get, so not to bring up things that don't need to be analyzed or discussed, because the only people who have issues with these things are people who can't accept reality. But the example of the not holding call, right, on L'Jarius, that L'Jarius Sneed did not commit, or the pass interference, right? He had his hands on the receiver, and that was actually that's a perfect example, because Jordan Addison's a smaller receiver, and Sneed knew what he was doing. He's playing that to his advantage.
Sure.
And he didn't have,
especially when they're hand fighting.
Yeah,
and so
trapping the corner, trapping him on the boundary,
So for me, the biggest concern is I don't know if Sky has the play strength to get through that at the professional level. That doesn't mean he can't make plays. That doesn't mean he can't be schemed open. But in some of those really gritty, especially tougher situations, tougher matchups, it's going to be a tough. He's got to figure that part of his game out. That's the one of the bigger things I noticed. I think he gets pushed around a little bit more than
the thing I think about
the physicality difference
with the receivers. I feel like the biggest kind of concern, I guess, right now is the people who are getting the most snaps or having the least production, in MBS and Sky Moore. It almost kind of makes sense a little bit, though, just from a defensive standpoint, considering they're the two main carryovers from last year, and there's so much unknown. You can kind of just focus your more coverage on those two guys. Obviously, you still have Travis Kelce to guard out there, but it's one of those things. Yeah. They're more known commodities than Rashee Rice. So,
sure.
Defenses might kind of be playing less to them.
Here's the other part. when the Chiefs are putting Rashee Rice and putting Justin Ross in the game, what are they doing when they're in the game? They're targeting them because they're
Right, yeah.
specifically putting them in the
That's
game
the thing.
to
They really
use
are.
them.
They're using the notoriety kind of MBS and Sky to just be decoys, which MBS has been especially a very very decoy.
MVS just
so
runs
far.
freaking wind sprints. I swear to God, at this
He
point,
really
he's
does. I
just
mean,
like,
he's just out
"Ah,
there.
here.
He
We're
never
just going. I'm going
he
that
doesn't
way,
even
guy.
get targets. He gets like one target a game, and he
going.
catches it usually. But
I went that way."
Sky's
Yeah.
a little bit. He's at least being used in a lot more things, but I don't know. It
Yeah,
just seems like.
but again,
the
like not
offense-
necessarily always advantageous. Like, hey, Sky, go run this go ball against Sauce over here on the side, and hope
right,
to
just
God
to
they
take away
other
Sauce
people
from the
go.
play.
Hope other people, somebody else goes with you too, and that way Travis is down here 1-on-1 for some
Yeah.
reason or something.
Like you said, that also makes them a little more valuable to the team though, because they're at least doing the nitty gritty stuff that and that's opening the doors for other guys. The problem is that there's just so many other guys. No one's really kind of taking that big leap. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
We'll
see how. Yeah, go ahead.
It's also to what Kyle said earlier, right? Early in the season, so much of this stuff right now, Andy is just putting on tape so that defenses have to look at it. So there was a play, was it last week when they came out, and they've had a couple different looks now where it's been, almost like a wildcat formation. They did it with
Pacheco had it this time.
Pacheco, but they had one. It was an option with Travis Kelce. They're going to do some of those things, and week 16, 17, wild card round of playoffs, whatever, you're going to have some plays in there where they're going to go, oh yeah, here comes the read option with Travis Kelce, and then he's going to drop back for a pass, and it's going to be a touchdown, and we're all going to go, oh yeah, that's right, that's why we're doing this, because my mind doesn't work this way, but I understand that what makes Andy Reid the fourth winningest head coach of all time now?
Is now, yes.
Yeah. So what makes part of that is he's playing, in week 2, 3, 4, he's playing for the, putting plays in there that they have to account for in the playoffs.
Or if you don't, hey, you remember when they ran that play in week 2 and it got like a half a yard and it looked weird and broken?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, they ran it 305 more times in practice and walkthroughs between now and when they busted it out in AFC Championship game in freaking January for no reason.
Yeah, that is the thing. We talk about it every year, but like the Chiefs in September and October, you don't really have to look too deep into it. They're putting vanilla stuff out there. They're testing stuff. They're getting guys integrated. They're getting guys caught up to speed. It's just it's a feeling out process in the first couple months of the year. Once we get to November and December, that's when you'll really start to see the clearer roles develop, I think, and we'll really see who they end up fully trusting in a lot of these situations because they're just kind of rotating guys willy-nilly. But yeah, I think the offense, we're going to see, especially this next week versus the Broncos, who are the worst-ranked defense.
Everything.
And basically everything. Points per game, I think, was the one stat that they're 32nd in, and Patrick Mahomes has never faced a 32nd ranked points per game defense.
Want to know my favorite Broncos defensive stat?
Yeah.
If you took away that 70-point game that the Dolphins dropped on them,
like 29,
they would still be bottom 3 in every defensive category.
That's pretty tough.
To say that they've been bad is an understatement.
Exactly. So the offense, I think, like I said, we talked about it kind of in the Vikings preview of how this could be a kind of a bounce back game for the offense. I think it'll be even further of that. They'll continue to develop, keep on unlocking a little bit more, and I think it'll be a good match. Obviously, it's a AFC West divisional matchup, so it's always going to be a tough game. But
you never know.
It's Thursday night for one, so I just want everybody to get that in their brain to start with. It's a Thursday night game, and it's a division opponent, so expect this game to be roughly on drugs for most of it, okay?
Exactly. Travis Kelce still kind of nursing that ankle injury. He's going to be good to go, and for also breaking news, of course, Taylor Swift is going to be at Arrowhead for this game.
Yes.
Big
Nick Bolton.
Big news.
Nick Bolton will be back, supposedly.
Turn,
Tommy Townsend tweaked his knee during practice today.
That's kind of concerning. Hopefully he's good because I don't know.
I just hope we don't punt.
Well, yeah, but do we know if Harrison Butker can punt?
I don't know, but I'm sure Justin Reed can.
Punting is actually pretty It's
Punting is. I'd
Punting
rather
is
just
pretty
go for it.
difficult.
Every down.
Trust me, I've done it. It sucks.
Yeah.
But if you're
Just
good at
maybe
it,
he'll break out like the good old like sideways rugby kick or something. But
whatever.
I would bet I bet Harrison can. I bet Harrison.
I would also expect Tommy to probably still
He'll
be
probably
there
grit
unless
it out.
something's
Yeah.
real bad.
Yeah.
Look, man. When you were talking about the formations and some of the goofy stuff they do, they also do the route concept things out of certain formations. The same thing where it's like, why did you run 2 flats and a cross? Well, because in January I'm gonna run a slant, a go ball out of that same formation, and they're gonna be looking at me standing on the sidelines in zone coverage, and somebody's gonna be running straight down the middle of the field with the football. He sets up everything weeks like it's stupid. And we get mad every year because he's like, why do you hold stuff back? He's like, I don't hold stuff back. What do you mean I hold stuff back?
What do you mean?
It's not. He's not. He's just setting stuff up for later because you're going to go back and they're going to run that same formation like 6 times and they're going to run the same thing out of it like 6 times this year. And the 7th time is going to be when it matters and they're going to hit you in the forehead with something. And it's going to be an 80-yard touchdown. Like, so now Denver's defense has been well, Randy Gregory's not on the team anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think it mattered.
Got Pat Surtain, but
Patrick Surtain Jr. is currently, and I said this in the comment section of our friends over at Kingdom Cast's show tonight. He's currently the Will Smith in the Fresh Prince, standing in the living room looking around when it's empty, going, guys, what's going on over here? Because that defense
kind of the same way. It's not
but the defense was like a top unit even last year when Russell was hot god awfulness, and now they're jettisoning everybody. They've had some guys get hurt. They're starting to just ship off the goods. Frank Clark is out for this game with an illness.
That's unfortunate, man. That's unfortunate.
I feel bad for Frank. I'm kind of surprised because typically with that kind of illness, if it's the same illness that he's had before that I've talked about publicly on the show numerous times, unless you're having like a episode that requires a hospital stay, you don't typically know the days prior that you're not going to make it for the game. So, and I know that he tweeted some stuff last week, and I know that he was basically like not played the week before. So
Chris Jones tweeted some stuff.
Look, Frank's not happy. Denver's.
Let's bring Frank back.
Come on home, Frank.
Back. Let's just run it all back.
I don't even. Look, if you're talking about those two, it'll be Frank for me over McCole, and I'm one of McCole's biggest defenders.
Definitely not McCole. I'll tell you that much.
I guess I'm one of McCole's biggest defenders, but
definitely not McCole.
Frank has a potential, like teaching role, as well as still being beneficial on 15 to 20 snaps a game when you want him to do stuff.
And he's a leader in the locker room. So, I mean,
not even the mentor stuff. I mean, flat out teacher role. He worked with George
that's the same
pretty exclusively on fundamentals, on basics, on technique drills and stuff. We watched it at the end of camp last year. And him with Felix as well, being a presence in that locker room.
Very cool. Yeah.
Him and Felix, I've talked about how I think there's some similarities between the two of their games, and how I think he could help even highlight some things that Felix could develop he's not as good at, that Frank is very good at, that he could be much improved at by learning from Frank. And I know Joe Cullen likes Frank. So
let's make it happen, Veach. Come on now.
Get
Denver on the phone.
I wouldn't trade him. I wouldn't trade anything for him. I would make him cut him, and I think they probably will.
For El Suggs plan, we're going to let the Broncos pay for him for a while,
and then they're going to cut him.
13 or 14, we'll cut him.
Yeah,
bring Frank in for the playoffs. He'll be nice and rested because he wouldn't have played. He, hasn't played meaningful football all year.
6 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Just have him for the playoffs. He'll be all good. And they hadn't reassigned 55 yet, so boom, here you go. Here's 55.
Like I said, the defense in Denver is falling apart at the seams. I don't know.
Meanwhile, our defense is doing pretty good. Obviously, we saw versus the Vikings a pretty solid performance. Obviously, the penalties were kind of a tough thing. A lot of really ticky-tack penalties that we already touched on that earlier. We don't need to break down more penalties. But the DBs had a heck of a game. Trent McDuffie, L'Jarius Sneed absolutely
Yeah,
locking
shutting
down Justin
down-
Jefferson.
Yeah,
Um,
that's you can't.
Jordan Addison had a
understate
pretty good game, but it was a pretty good showing from the
Jordan
from
Addison was
the-
all right, but if you're going to tell me that Jordan Addison had the most productive day at the wide receiver position, good
I'll
for
take
you.
that. Yeah, I mean, dude's
Yeah.
still
Well, not
1
just
year away from being
Addison,
a
but
dog.
they shut down Hawkinson too.
TJ Hawkinson had a
We
Yeah,
talked about
Hawkinson was
nightmare
shut down
of a
pretty
game.
well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it was
the
good.
linebackers were in his pocket all day.
Yeah, and the run game wasn't too much there. The blitzes from we saw Steve
Which
Spagnuolo.
linebackers, Tom?
Steve
One
Spagnuolo was
That would
unleashing.
be Drew Tranquil and Willie Gay.
Drew Tranquil was everywhere.
He was.
Yeah, he had a really good game. The whole linebacker,
Everywhere.
Leo Chanel had a sack. Willie Gay was out there. Obviously, he's always a good player. But yeah, we saw the blitzes out heavily on Kirk Cousins. Spags was throwing a lot at him every which
He
way.
backed off a little bit in the
backed
second
off.
half.
Far
Yeah,
more than I
but-
wanted him to.
He
I
was
was like,
pretty. I
come on,
mean,
kill
he
the
was
man.
sending, especially late in the game. He was. I mean, obviously the
At
last
the
play of the
end,
game.
yeah, but there was like 2 drives there where they just kind of let them walk down the field, and he didn't press the
Yeah.
blitz button once.
Yeah,
and it's
that'll
like,
happen sometimes. You know,
dude,
you gotta
Kurt
see
Kurt
what you
has
got.
showed
versus-
you all
Well-
game. He can't even see where you're coming from. Just send it.
That's not. There were a couple of adjustments, and I think again there was.
I think he called
they
a pretty
wanted
good
to- They knew
I-
that it
I
was.
know.
It was
I
crunch
just wanted
time,
to
and they knew
spam
that
the
they were
button
going to
more.
be targeting Jefferson, and so I think there was a big emphasis on the coverage part of those pieces, and that's what they talked about in the press conferences. Hawkinson and Jefferson, and you make them play with their left hand, and
Yeah.
it worked out.
And we got to talk about it a little bit because I put out I tweeted something about Mr. McDuffie, and while I still will 100% stand by what I said on that tweet, after going back and watching the film again, he wasn't the best corner on his own team that game.
Yeah, Snead had a really good game. Snead-
Look, man, these two are top 5. Like individually, personally, when you go through the cornerback list and the way they're playing right now, it's hard to argue other than Sauce and maybe 1 or 2 other guys that are playing at the level that both of these guys are playing at right now, and they play together. And they're doing it from different, and they're both doing different. They're both doing everything. They're both in coverage. They're both.
It's
coming
actually
off
very
blitzes.
interesting too, because we've seen this year Trent McDuffie actually a lot more in the slot, and they're putting Snead out on the outside, and it's still working. I mean,
They're
Snead's
just
been
mixing
traveling.
and matching. No, they're
Yeah.
genuinely just mixing and matching however they
Well,
want to.
Well,
Literally
Justin
just
Reed
like,
said it.
it's
He
almost like
flat out
pick your
said
guy, whoever you
Legarius.
want.
No, they've said him and Spags now have said Legarius gets the best guy. He gets number 1.
Yeah, they
And-
do trust him in that role. And then they just,
And-
I think it's great because they can really, I mean, we saw it with Legarius a lot, but they've been using Trent McDuffie now in the slot and blitzing him a lot. I mean, I'll tell
He
you, when
almost
Trent
killed
McDuffie
Kirk Cousins.
blitzes, bro is shot out of a cannon.
He
Like,
almost
he hit-
decapitated Kirk Cousins.
Oh, well, he
Twice.
had some
He
tackles.
almost killed Kirk twice. Like, he thumped him
He had a
so
couple
hard.
of open field tackles too.
That
were just
third down play,
phenomenal.
Yeah.
the third down play where he covers like 9 yards and makes a tackle on the spot in like
Yeah, the
half
end
a
zone
second.
view, you just see him
Yeah.
just shoot right in, right past. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my god,
Yeah,
he
That
is,
was-
he had a trail on a guy, and
it's actually
just
it's,
like I remember watching it live and going, "What in the? Oh God! Like, where did
That
he
was-
come from?"
That I
It's almost
tweeted
crazy to
he's
say,
a top
but-
5 corner when he made that tackle. That was the tackle that made me tweet that tweet.
yeah, that was they both had a really good showing. It's very fun to see them just really just playing at the best of what we've seen from both of them. I mean, they're at the peak of their games right now, and they're only getting
Yeah.
better. I mean, we've seen week after week a tougher challenge step up to the plate, and obviously we've still got a couple really good receivers on the horizon. Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs when they inevitably play them, Jerry Jeudy this next week. Jerry Judy's a dog.
Jerry's not happy.
Because if there's a receiver that's
Yeah.
allegedly on the trade market, like that's the guy that I'd want the Chiefs to take. Or
Yeah,
to take a
but-
swing at. It won't happen because he's in
It
Denver,
won't
and
happen,
Denver's not
unfortunately.
going to count the Chiefs, right?
No.
I've heard Cortland Sutton too. It's
You're
not
also
going to
not
happen.
overpaying for them. You're not.
If it
They
happens,
would make
I'll
you
get Kyle's
overpay.
name tattooed on my thigh. Like, don't.
They,
it's not
yeah,
gonna
they
happen.
would have to overpay. They would
Yeah.
literally have to give up at least a round, maybe 2 rounds higher of a pick just because it's in division because Denver's not giving Kansas City a weapon. You're out of your mind.
Yeah. So the defense overall, they looked pretty good versus the Vikings. The pass rush, it was up and down all day. Obviously, like I said, there's a couple drives they weren't blitzing too heavily, and the pass rush wasn't quite getting home.
I've got to see more of the next step from George. I'm there now. He's good. He's been very good. He's getting lots of pressures. That's great. You have to start getting all the way home. You're putting up lots of pressure numbers. That's fine. We love pressure. Pressure does affect the quarterback.
He had a couple of good pressures that actually did
affect home. You have to get home. You have to get him on the ground. Because against guys that aren't Kirk Cousins, pressures may result in him running 15 yards down the field away from you for a first down.
I will say I have not had a chance to go back and look at the all 22 for this week just because life has been chaotic.
It was not as good as
my initial impression was George is getting a little bit more respect. And he's gonna have to learn because one of the hardest things to do is to beat some double teams, and that offensive line is no slouch. And he had some tough matchups. So I don't know. I understand it.
He wasn't the only one that struggled, but I need him to start getting. He's now, and I say that mostly because he's now to that next year. We're like 26 games into his run now, 27 games into his run basically, and probably closer to 20 full games because he wasn't getting full reps last year at the beginning.
Yeah,
but he's now at the point where you're doing enough of the basic stuff really good. You've got to take that next step, bud. And that's where we're at now for me with him. And not everybody kind of had a rough week from the front four perspective when they didn't
wasn't
blitz.
The most energetic of showings, yeah.
So
we didn't see
it wasn't just him, but he's the one I want to say to take the next step to start beating because he did get a few more double teams this week. He did get a chip once in a while. He got a little more attention. He's got to be able to make those next plays because he's the guy that they're depending on to be that guy right now. So
it's something to note that George was on the injury report this week.
Hamstring.
So that's it was a day that they didn't actually practice, but they just projected him. But that'll be something to monitor. He might not be 100% right now still, but
which sucks.
Yeah. Either way, I think, and this is also the last week before we get Charles Omenihu back, so we'll see how that kind of impacts everything.
We're gonna devote a whole episode. I'll do it by myself, talking about what that's gonna mean.
By the way, Tom, he has to wait until Monday. He can't come in Friday, can he?
No, I think he has to wait till Monday. But let
me look. I think our friend Charles Goldman wrote an article about it. I think
it has to process through the whole week. So I'm gonna guess Monday. But you follow him on Twitter. He's ready, and he appreciates.
He's been an avid follower of the team so far.
And let me tell you, this is a guy who's going to have inside outside potential. The dude's long, strong, and just surprisingly slippery and bendy. And when he gets moving, and he's just a fun guy to root for. I pulled up the receipts a couple of weeks ago on my Twitter of when I wrote for a website, and I was when he was a prospect at Texas, and I was this is my guy. So
I've liked him for literally ever since he came out, just because of that inside-out versatility.
Charles Omenihu's suspension can be lifted by the commissioner as early as Friday, October 13th, which, by the way, Friday, October 13th is this Friday.
That's great. I didn't know that was the thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, that'll happen because, the league wants the Chiefs to win. So
Which is the day following the Chiefs' Week 6 game against the Broncos. It will happen officially at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Central when the NFL processes the daily transaction report. At this juncture, Omenihu will be permitted to rejoin the team for meetings, walkthroughs, practices, and so on.
Which would be pretty big, giving some extra time to get back in the building.
Yeah. So that'd be cool. We'll have to see. But obviously, one more game we got to wait. So we'll see how the pass rush fares without him this last game until then. Last thing I think we should talk about here to close it out so we can keep this relatively short. Russell Wilson and Sean Payton obviously haven't been the greatest connection. I think there was a little animosity on the sideline last week I saw. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Is that what you call that ass chewing?
What was that?
Is that what you call him getting his ass chewed by Sean Payton? A little animosity?
Animosity. Yeah, that's good. That's a good word.
I liked it.
I will.
So what do we
Yeah.
think? What do we think, Sean Payton? Are we worried
Go
at
ahead,
all?
Tom. I'll let you go first.
I'll just say I heard this. Shout out to the guys over on the PFF Draft Stock Exchange podcast, and they said it, and I went, "That's it." Sean Payton talks about this Broncos team like he doesn't like a single player that's on his roster, and he talks about it as if the only reason he is there is because he knows that the Walmart people are going to burn that place down, and he's the fancy, big name head coach, and they're going to keep him around because he's shiny and new, and he'll get to do whatever he wants, and probably get try to get Caleb Williams or Drake May or something or whatever. Right? He is.
Yeah.
I don't think he has any loyalties to Russ Wilson. I don't know if he should have any loyalties. That was a big overpay. But I'm not a big Sean Payton fan. I've not been a big fan of him ever, really. I feel like Drew Brees carried that man in New Orleans. But his comments, about here's the thing, and this is one of the things that I love about Andy is even with all the drama, he keeps it classy. He'll throw in some zingers or whatever in his way. But for him to go after, and I'm not a fan of Nathaniel Hackett, in terms of his coaching skill. But just to be, this is the worst coaching job ever. And then before he's done a thing in that building, he comes out and says that, and
pretty embarrassing.
You've done worse. I mean, at least last year their defense was good,
serviceable.
It was serviceable. And you've made the team worse. I'm not a fan. Personally, Sean Payton can go.
I would like to point out Russell Wilson's dead cap hit next year is $85 million, and in 2025 it is $50 million, and in 2026 it is $31.2 million. Now, I'm assuming by 2026 that 31.2 will be a little more on the stomachable side to go ahead and eat. But 85 next year and 50 the year after, unless that cap jump in 2025 is just outrageous, is going to hurt a lot if you're trying to get rid of
Honestly, I might, if I'm Sean Payton, I might just do it anyways. I might be like, let's do it. Let's just send it. We'll draft a rookie back.
You can always look for a team that's desperate, right? That's what you do is you wait for a team to lose the starter and, hey, New York Jets.
Vikings or something.
Hey,
even the
Vikings.
Jets aren't taking that deal. Good God.
The Vikings would love them. That's the Vikings. Yeah. It seems like
the Vikings are currently getting ready to auction Kirk Cousins off to the highest bidder.
Well, exactly. They need a new quarterback after that, bro.
That way you can
great backup plan.
Punch the numbers around and split that money up a little bit.
Here's the deal. The Broncos are bad. Here's the problem. Andy and Peyton, for all accounts, are fairly chummy, could be considered friends in some circles. He doesn't step on his friends very often. He doesn't typically blow them out of the building if he doesn't have to.
But what if he did this time, though? What if this is a big FU game? Wouldn't that be great?
It would be. It would just be out of the norm. It also would have to basically just be because the Broncos are so bad that it just is inevitably going to happen that way.
That's kind of what happened versus the Dolphins. I mean, it didn't. The Dolphins were just running. I mean, they had all their backups out there. Just running
their backups were like, "What do I do? Do I run backwards?
Like, what the heck? I'm so open. What am I supposed to do?" Yeah.
So
it's going to be.
They're going to fight. It's a division game. It's a Thursday night game. I don't think this is going to be some runaway thing because I just don't know that they will do that. Unless the defense comes out and just decides to end Russell Wilson's whole existence on offense for the night. And then they're going to have problems. Also, something to bear in mind, they had a right guard, right tackle, somebody from last year that had a certain problem with our ring around the rosy play when against the Raiders. If everybody has forgotten, Quinn Miners opened his mouth about that in January.
Bring out the ring around the rosy play.
So don't be surprised if you see don't be surprised if you
might see something.
That would be that.
You might see some tricks pulled out the bag from Andy.
It'll be interesting. Like I said, the Broncos are bad. I hope this is a mercy killing, and it's over by halftime.
Yeah, I really don't see it happening. I think this is October still. I mean, this is I don't foresee this going any differently than any other Chiefs October game has gone the past couple years.
Especially on a Thursday night.
Yeah, especially on a short week where you're getting. I mean, Travis Kelce's going to be kind of limited again. Probably you're still working guys back in.
No, bro.
Getting worked back in.
Adrenaline's going to be rolling.
We'll see. We'll see what they do. They might.
Taylor's in the building, dog. He's going to be. You don't even need the Toradol. He's got the new vitamin T. He's got vitamin Taylor.
Listen, we're gonna save your ankle a little bit, Trav. All right, and when you get off, right when we win this, guess what? You have a whole extended weekend with Taylor.
You know what his response is going to be? I've got 10 days after we win this. I'm not taking a squat off. I'm good. Let's roll.
I'm just saying, it might be one of those save him from himself type things.
It might be.
With that being said,
just get the four touchdowns in the first quarter and move on.
I don't know. I see it being a very just close.
I would take the Chiefs over in the first half, and I would take the Chiefs over touchdowns in the first half. If you have those two things available to look for on your certain sites that you may or may not use. Yeah. We don't necessarily give gambling advice, but I would look for those two things if the odds were favorable, which they probably should be.
Yeah. So with that being said, I think that's a pretty good place to wrap it up. Tune in today. Obviously,
scores
today.
Scores, Garrett.
You want to do scores? We didn't do scores last week, and it feels like we did do scores last week.
We did do scores last week.
Okay, we'll do scores this week then too.
We've done scores every week, as far as I know.
Tom's 100-0.
Okay.
Now
I think that's the joke you made last week.
Oh no, I said Chiefs by 100. I'm gonna go 38-28.
Whoa.
38-28 Broncos. No, I'm just kidding. 38-28.
28. How did the Broncos get 28 points, Tom?
I think it's going to be junk, like you talked about. Taking the foot off the gas. I think it'll be
garbage time nonsense.
Yeah, garbage time. Oh, look, we got another touchdown in the fourth quarter. We're making it come. Never mind. We're making a comeback. There's only 3 minutes left, and we're down by 4 scores. Now we're only down by 3 scores. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Kyle scores.
I hate Thursday night games, mostly because they're just always a circus and never go any way how they're supposed to.
Especially on Amazon Prime, all the Prime games have been.
It's a division game. It's a Thursday night. The Broncos are bad. They're coming off a game they just got beat in after their head coach talked bad about the other team. This game should be 60-0. It's going to be like 28-17 Kansas City, and I'm going to be annoyed and miserable most of the evening watching it probably because it's going to be like 17-0, and then it's going to be like 21-17 for some reason all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It might get a little weird.
I was pretty close on that number too. I was thinking 27-13 because it's just, they'll probably kick a couple field goals, get a random touchdown. The Chiefs will just not try very hard. Probably have a bunch of goofy turnovers.
I just want them to win by 50.
And then we'll easily just win though. But actually, whatever the spread is, the Chiefs are definitely not covering it. So I'll tell you.
I think it's 10.5.
They're definitely not covering that. So alter my score to be like 21-13. Yeah, because they're not covering that spread. They don't cover spreads in October. So that's that, I think. So thank you all so much for tuning in, watching this one. It's a little late, but better late than never. We're marching forward here with the season, and we're excited that you guys are joining us. So be sure to check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Kingdom Says Podcast on all those things, Apple Music, Spotify, blah, blah, blah. And we will see you guys in the next episode of The Kingdom Says.